You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
This is the Hammock Hangers podcast, where we hang out and talk about everything from hammocks and hammock camping to the group hangs from around the country.
Hey y'all, welcome hammock enthusiasts and chill seekers. You are listening to the Hammock Hangers podcast, the coziest spot on the pod waves. We are your go-to source for all things hammock related, from laid back tales to tips and tricks on finding that perfect hang. So grab yourself a drink, kick back in your favorite hammock, and let's swing into some awesome conversations. This is where relaxation meets conversation, and it's going to be one comfy ride. So let's get into it. Well, everybody, we have another one of our Fall Sprawl special on-site interviews, and we have one of the OG hammock hangers, one of the original kind of developers of some of the hangs that we have. He has developed a few different suspension systems that I have used and tinkered with in the past. You can check his videos on YouTube. He also kind of organizes and heads up one of the hangs on Paul's and I's bucket list up at Yates Place. And we have the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend. We have Phantom Grappler with us. Welcome, Phantom.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. I'm having my coffee here. My doctor told me just to have 1 or 2 cups a day.
So he has a keg in his hands right now.
Well, I didn't start Yates Hang. I think a guy named Running Feather started it, and old Four Hats can tell you the history of it way better than I can, because I didn't come into Yates until 2012.
Okay.
And old Four Hats was there, and Wishbone was there. No, Bone Pile. Bone Pile was there. And a number of old timers. And I came there and I didn't know jack about hammocks. There I was in my Eno double nest.
I think we've all been there, at least in some way, shape, or form before.
Yeah, you know, my girlfriend at the time, her daughter and son-in-law had bought her a hammock, and so I went down to Wally World and bought a hammock. And there it was, that short. I think Eno has done a disservice to hammock campers. Eno and Eno knockoffs. You go in any store, even Dick's, REI, Cabela, Bass Pro Shops, any of them, and they all sell short hammocks, 8.5 feet. They'll label them 9.5, but that's with the suspension. There might be 8.5 feet long, maybe 9. They're okay to lounge in, but they're horrible for an overnight. And so I didn't know anything about it, and I'm still one of the most bumblingest camp setter. I set up my camp and I bumble and struggle. I might spend 30 minutes looking for trees that are cooperative. I look at one, I wonder if it's cooperative. The other one, I try to hypnotize them to get them closer. And you guys, with all your all the new hammock stands, the Yobo Cricket, the Tensa trekking trees, the Hive. I'm impressed with the Tensa trekking tree, because you can hang on one tree and then you can do the other. But I always just get trees and stuff. Anyway, there was a guy, the guy that was hosting Yates at the time was Maya NC. Jeremy, and his trail name was Maya NC.
Okay.
And there was a kind of an incident one night. He had bought his scout troop there, or a lot of them, to Yates at the Yates Hang. Well, unbeknownst to Maya NC, in the middle of the night, in the dead of night, and he was sleeping just like most of the rest of us was sleeping in the middle of the night.
This tends to be what you do usually at Hanks.
Right. 3 or 4 of his scouts got up, and being Boy Scouts, and first time in the woods, and away from mom and dad and everything, they were just playing, running around the campsite, yelling, screaming, playing Flashlight Tiger, whatever it was they were doing. So then we had somebody else who's a good friend of mine text into Hammock forums on the Yates thread about how awful that was and how responsible. Well, I'm not saying the
paraphrasing. Gotcha.
Yeah, how bad it was of my NC not to be in control of his scouts. Well, it's almost impossible to control a bunch of teenage boys on their first camp out in the woods.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like trying to control hammock campers at HangCon or Palmetto State Hanger Fall Sprawl or at Yates. It's like herding cats. And so anyway, my NC's son was in the scout troop too, and he was an aspiring Eagle Scout, which later he became an Eagle.
Okay.
And so my NC, he just stopped. He didn't post. So we were coming up on the spring hang. I think it was a spring hang, and it kept getting closer and closer to the hang. And I kept every day I'd check on Hammock forums. When's he going to post the hang? We all know it's on the time change weekend, but when's he going to post it? Silence, complete silence. Never posted a thing. Well, dumb old Phantom Grappler gets nervous. I got nervous. I said, God, I'm not going to be able to go to Yates. They're not going to have a Yates. So I posted it and became the de facto host. And I'm the most disorganized person to host something like that, but I just fell into it, and I've been hosting it ever since. I think it's maybe around 2015.
Yeah.
And we've got Joe's Barbecue to come out. One time we did steak and potatoes.
That sounds good.
He cooked actual steaks, and
Yeah.
it was a good cut of steak. And we've had Joe's Barbecue come out and serve barbecue. And we've had them come out with their smoker and cook it, and then we've had them just deliver it in the
Right.
the large trays. And then we've done, what have we done? We've done sandwiches. We did, any kind of sandwiches that you could think of, and some of those ones that we didn't get Joe's Barbecue to do, that Phantom Grappler was supposed to be in charge of, were kind of fails, and people went back and ate Pop-Tarts and peanut butter and stuff instead.
So where's the Yates Hang at for anybody that don't know?
Well, we always post Yates Hang on Hammock forums,
Okay.
which you can join Hammock forums without paying anything.
Right.
Now, it's a $10 membership a year, but you can just go on Hammock forums and browse, and I think you can even post, but you're not a full member.
Right.
A full member, you're entitled to all the different.
There's a few other sub forums for donating members.
Yeah, and so now where is Yates? Yates, it's called Yates Place Campground in Troy, NC.
Okay.
Now that's not to be mistaken. There is a family campground in the Charlotte area, and their last name is Yates.
Okay.
And they have a little campground. Don't mistake it. And the way you don't mistake it is in the first post of Hammock forums, when I post the thread, I give the Google address to it.
Okay.
It says Yates Place Campground, Troy. That's the town of Troy, 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 NC, and I give the zip code.
Okay.
And then also I said 700, if I've got the number right, 700 Dusty Level Road.
Gotcha.
And so if somebody wants to put it in that way. And so if they read that first post, it tells them everything they need to know, how to find it.
So they shouldn't get lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the fun thing about Yates is it's just a few 100 yards from the Uwharrie Trail.
Okay.
And so the Uwharrie Trail, I'm not even sure where it starts at, but you can get on it from 2427 Trailhead in Mount Gilead, just west of Troy. You can park at that. It's got a trailhead. You can park there, and so people from that trailhead, you can go north on Uwharrie Trail, or you can go north on Dutchman's Creek Trail. And what it is they branch off from the parking lot, and then they form a figure 8 loop like that.
Okay.
Well, a friend of mine, Bob, and I sometimes are camping down at Yates, so we'll be there. We might stay over till Monday after Yates, or sometimes we just go down there and camp. And Bob has rescued at least 3 families, or like friends, rescued them. They'll take off, and they think that they're doing the bottom loop of the figure 8, like the bottom circle of an 8.
Right.
They'll think that they're doing that, and they get out there, and these people, they'll go out there without a paper map, and without a compass, and without downloading the trails on All Trails,
right.
All Trails Pro, without downloading them on Wi-Fi at home, and then bringing them up, and then even if you lose complete connection, like even if you can't even talk on your phone,
right, you still have those.
It showed a blue dot exactly where you're at. So anyway, Bob has rescued he rescued a father and son. He rescued two girls, 2 young women, and what it was is they ended up hiking the 21-mile loop, and so they ended up at Yates' place, and they were going to go. This is like at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and they had a 10-mile hike at least down to 2427 Trailhead to get to their car. These girls did not have a tent, a hammock, a blanket, a sleeping bag. They didn't have any food. They didn't have a headlamp. They didn't have a navigation app. They didn't have a map or a compass. They were just day hiking. And they had run out of water too. Well, and they were hungry. And so we give them a little bit to eat. And Bob was very kind, and he let them get in his pickup truck, and he was going to. They had 30 minutes of daylight to hike 10 miles, and they didn't know where they were at, really. Because people get confused at the crossroads. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll hang around at the crossroads when we're hiking. Like if me and a friend of mine are hiking, and I'll be arguing with my friend in front of those people, and I'll say, well, which way is Myrtle Beach? I think it's that way. And we'll ask the people that's hiking by, which way is Myrtle Beach? And whichever way they point to Myrtle Beach, I take off the other way. I say, well, Vegas has got to be that way. So anyway, these 2 young women, one was, I guess, like 20, and one was like late 20s. And so they get in Bob's pickup truck, and Bob turns around, fixing to leave Yates to take them to their car. And I come running up to Bob, waving my arms like this, and they stop and roll down the window, and I'm speaking across from the passenger side, across the girl, and I say, Bob, what'd I tell your parole officer if you're not back by 9 o'clock in the morning? That girl in the back seat of the pickup truck just... But Bob has rescued at least 3 people. People get lost down there.
Yeah.
And then they got the Bigfoot legends and all that stuff. But there's a guy that we run into that was real big on Bigfoot.
Okay.
And I think he's one of the hiker guys. Excellent camper. Lightest pack. He picks up his pack, and you compare your pack with his pack. And his pack, you just go like that. It's almost like a day camper, but he camps in it. He camps with it. He's into Bigfoot. And And up at El Dorado Camp Store, they've got Bigfoot books and maps and legends and stuff. There was some guy that they used to mine gold in that area, and along Dutchman's Creek, you'll find holes where they have dug out near the creek. I mean, holes like, I don't know, like 6, 8, 10 feet across, 6 feet deep, but they were deeper before, because every once in a while a flood will come through.
Right.
And what they do is in the floodplain, they dig down and mine for gold.
Okay.
But all that stuff went by the wayside when gold was discovered in California.
Right.
All those guys took off for California. But there's still holes out there by the creeks where they've dug for gold, and there's gold mines down there. There's some guy that's got a gold mine on his property.
Really?
Yeah, that you can go into it.
Okay.
And now Bob pans for gold. He goes by Joyride on Hammock forums. He pans for gold, and I go and watch, and I've met other people that pan for gold. They'll have a sluice, and they'll shovel sand and gravel from the creek into the sluice and run water through it, and then they get a pan, and there they go, and they got little miniature gold flecks. But I'm not into it, but some of my friends are into it, panning for gold and stuff like that. But I'm a very disorganized person, and Yates is not an organized hang. It's never been a very organized hang anyway. It's one of the most laid back hangs, and not to throw cold water on HangCon or Palmetto State Hangers or any of the larger hangs. Once a hang gets to be where it could have 100 or 150 people in it. And I've been to some Palmetto State hangs that had over 100 people in them. And I think what cut down on the numbers this weekend was the weather. Mm-hmm. That's something that we enjoy on Hammock forums, and you can read any of the hangs that that people post all over the country. Carla with a K, she posts some hangs. She's excellent. I've never met her, but she really does it. She goes above and beyond to make a great hang. But anyway, I'll be reading the like, maybe you've had like 40 people sign up. I'm gonna come. I'm gonna make it this year, and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And then you look at the weather report like 7 days out, and it says temperatures ranging from 28 to 33 with freezing rain, snow.
Those numbers go down quick,
rain every
don't
day. Yeah, Skunkape. Yeah, it rain every day, and then the excuses that they type in. I have to take my mother-in-law's ferret to the vet, or
my poodle needs an emergency manicure. Yeah. This is the only time that I can get.
They never mention the rain.
They never mention the rain. No. It's all about saving face.
Now, one year, I aggravated my friend Hickory, because I go to his hangs up in Grayson. Mm-hmm. I aggravated him, and he would come down to Yates. I aggravated him and got him to get Shug to come.
Okay.
And it got let out that Shug was coming. We went from 40 people to 70 or 70 plus.
Wow.
Oh, man. And so if you have a celebrity coming, or if you're giving away free steaks, all of a sudden on Saturday you get people coming there that you never seen before, that are not even on Hammock forums. They just come. They just show up with a fork and a spoon. But anyway, Shug was wonderful when he came. He was just wonderful, and Hickory appeared as the Maple King.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so we had a great time. We just had a great time. And I'll tell you how disorganized I am and how disorganized it can be for Yates. I call the ranger station, the local ranger station, 3 months before each Yates to remind them that we're coming on the time change weekend, and I give them the dates. And then 2 weeks before, 10, 12 days before, I call them again and remind them that we're coming to Yates. So we'll be down there. There'll be 40 of us down there on a nice sunny day, have the fire ring, and I always buy like a cord of seasoned split firewood. Mm-hmm. And so there we are enjoying ourselves, and the forest ranger rides up in his truck, and it's got, the circular decal on it, forest ranger or whatever it is. And he says, "Who are y'all?"
Yes, the right hand does not know what the left is doing.
Yeah.
Right.
So we always introduce ourselves and say hello to them, offer them some coffee or whatever. and they, last year, we had some guys show up. We always have some guys show up like on Wednesday or Thursday. We have some guys show up on Wednesday. A couple of them show up. And Loki, who has since passed away, he was camping. He was there early. And so a crew came to do a controlled burn, and they were going to burn Yates campground. They were going to burn right through that. And Loki saved us. He told them that he had cancer, and it would take him a minimum of 2 hours to break down his camp. And it would take anybody else an hour. People that are car camping take a while. And now, not Two Speed or not Tom Tom, those guys can pack up. I'm fumbling around looking for my coffee mug, and there hikes Two Speed right by with his pack on, and the sun hadn't even come up, and Tom Tom the same. They pack up. But anyway, we just had a great time out there. We have a great time every year, and it's different. Like one year, it rained the entire weekend, and it was cold.
Yeah.
We had just under 20 people. We had like 18, 19 people, and that's including some ins and outs. Some people came on Thursday, and then by Friday they were ready to pack up. And then we had some people come Friday, and they left Saturday. We were down low on the numbers.
Yeah.
We were down, and it was rain is a driver to it.
Well, I always look at it. I mean, it don't matter. Like, I mean, we got that rain up here.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. My quilt got soaked, and everything got soaked. But even though I got wet and I was miserable for that one night, it was still a lot better than being at work.
Oh yeah.
A lot better than being at work.
Oh man.
So you've been a part of a lot of hangs, and you've been to hangs in different states and things of that nature. What do you think about what do you think that makes the hammock community so much different and so much more inviting than maybe a lot of other outdoor communities?
It's a shared interest in hammocks. And basically we're all learning hammocks. Hammock camping, what has it been, maybe 20 years that people have been doing a whole lot of hammock camping. There may have been hammock campers back in the 70s and 80s, but I think basically from year 2000 on has been more hammock camping and advances in lightweight materials.
Right.
And Dutch and our beloved cottage vendors, God bless them. They make some of the greatest, most fantastic gear. And I've got a lot of Dutch gear, and I've got gear from other cottage vendors. It's just been so fantastic. But anyway, we're all kind of like a learning community. And my hammock and tarp my quilts did not get wet this weekend, but I have experienced the same exact thing that happened to you several times. I've woke up in the morning and my quilts were wet on the ends, and my hammock was wet on the ends. And I have, when I was learning to pitch my tarp, I had tarps that I couldn't really close good.
Right.
And the wind was coming in, and what it was, I think I was camping with the Tar Heel State Hangers over on Mora Mountain on the other side of the lake from Yates. And the wind was coming in, and I turned on my headlamp, and it was, you could see, I was under the tarp in my hammock and I could see like a mist, and it was like miniature water droplets that were so small that they wouldn't fall, and they were just blowing through the air, and the wind, I could see the end of my tarp was completely open, and it was billowing. Every time that the wind would blow, it would billow out, and that white mist would come in, and I felt my hammock and quilts and my coat was soaking wet, just as if I'd stood under a faucet. And so we've all experienced it, and so that's one of the things that that causes the hammock community to be to have a closeness, because we've all experienced the same challenges.
Yep.
And just because I've been successful this trip, which it was only a partial success, because if you've seen me setting up my tarp, I set it up here on the ridge here, and it was too windy. So then I moved down further down, and I just rigged the ridge line, and then I walked over to the other side of the camp to see some of my friends over there, to see if there was some trees over there. But the trees over there, they had all hammocked them all up, and the trees that were remaining were uncooperative, and so I after talking to my friends, I finally walked back to my tarp, and it billowed in the wind, and I have a minimum of 12-foot guy lines permanently, zinget tied to my tarp.
Right.
Have I don't know how many of them there is. There's 8 of those zingets, 12 foot long, and it blew in the wind, and it had made this god-awful tangled mess.
I've got one over on my tarp right now. It's going to take me probably a month to get that thing out. It looks like a monkey's paw.
Yes,
a monkey's fist knot.
And it was wrapped around, and I said, what is this? And so I was trying to untie it. Meanwhile, the wind was tugging on the other end, tightening it. While I was, I was beginning to speak some of the foreign languages I'd studied in high school and colleges. Oh yeah. Now that is one way that young people can help themselves if they're in management, or they're wanting to get into management in any of these businesses. They better study Spanish. They better get on. They better get some of those apps. I don't know, Babbel app, and there's several others. Maybe get several of them and study it, and get Spanish friends in various dialects. Because somebody from Spain might not understand somebody from Venezuela.
Right.
But anyway, have Spanish friends and speak Spanish. So learn spoken Spanish and learn to cuss in Spanish. And because if somebody wants to advance in a large company, that company may have a workforce that's 10%, 20%, 30 or 40% Hispanic. And so the person that's in HR, or the person that's going to speak in community, in corporate events, has got, and be able to deal with these people on the floor of the factory or whatever place they're working, has got to be able to speak Spanish, and has got to be able to cuss in Spanish too. Well, I have this coming Yates, which will be November 2, 3, 4, 5, which is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we always have some people show up on Wednesday and some people stayed on Monday, but November 2, 3, 4, 5 at Yates Place Campground, Troy, NC. I have not posted anything about food, and I have not hyped this hang. Usually when I post a hang, I used to, like, somebody would say, I'm coming, sign me up, or save 2 trees for me, which is a joke at Yates because there's hundreds of trees.
Gotcha.
But I always say, great to have you aboard, or we're looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
This year I've been radio silence. I've not said anything to anybody. And then after about, I think a couple of weeks ago, I said we've had 20, just over 20 wonderful campers sign up. And but I haven't been going back and forth with anybody.
Right.
But here's the way I figure it. Phantom Grappler is not Yates. When I retire or become unable to host Yates, someone else will host Yates. And probably they'll just fall into it like I did, because I got nervous because my NC was not posting it at that time.
That seems to be a pattern.
That seems to be that tend to be how we fell into HangCon.
Yeah. Well, now HangCon is the largest hang.
Yes.
And it has, by the nature of it, how many people do y'all have come to HangCon?
So last year we had right at 400 people. We had over 500 registered. This year we already have
over 300
over 300 registered. And we still got a couple months to go. And then we usually have a big mad rush for the end.
Yeah.
Or, we have people that we know are coming, but they're kind of being slow and progressive on actually registering. They're like, come on, guys, let's get it going.
Or
we need a food count.
They've been there so many times.
They just assume.
You remember me. You remember me.
We got to buy food, folks. We got to buy food.
You've got 400 names to deal with, and so-and-so that hadn't signed up. Oh, you remember me.
Well, what they don't understand is since we provide the food, that's why we want the registration so we can do a head count so we know how much food to buy.
We want to make sure everybody get fed.
By the numbers that you have, it's required to be highly structured.
Yeah.
But Yates will only have maybe 20 in bad weather, maybe 70 with if Shug returns and lets it be known that he's coming back, we could have 70 plus easily.
Yeah. I can't imagine what HangCon would look like if people knew Shug was going to be there.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I mean, I would love for Shug to come to HangCon because I'd love to meet him.
Yeah.
In person.
Maybe Shug should just show up incognito one time, just come through.
It would be neat to have him down there and meet him and all that. But I do understand.
I completely understand.
Oh man,
he
as
would
an outgoing introvert myself, I completely understand his reasoning.
Yeah.
And the man matches the legend. He is fantastic camper and is fantastic to camp with, and he lives up to his reputation and surpasses it.
I mean, I'm thinking Hickory's also on my list of people that I would, my bucket list of people to meet. And the funny thing about Hickory is, growing up, we probably lived about 15 miles from each other.
Really?
Really. Like, he had on his hammock forum things, his location says Lynchburg, Virginia. So I was like, okay, well, that's the next big town going forward. And come to find out, he's on the rescue squad or something along those lines in a little town of Evington, Virginia, which is the exact town that I grew up in. So,
man.
So like Podunk, middle of nowhere town. I'm like, oh my goodness, we possibly could have crossed paths.
You may have Pheonix, you may have crossed paths with him.
It blows my mind.
Now Hickory's quiet. He's rather quiet, but I'm gonna tell you what, Hickory has one of the driest sense of humor. Somebody will be doing something, and Hickory's drinking his coffee, and then he'll say something, and it's just the driest sense of humor, and he doesn't elaborate. He just goes on after that with the conversation.
That's funny. I want to get Hickory and Shug on the podcast at the same time.
Oh man,
both on at the same
that
time.
would be to die for. They grew up together. They were best friends growing up together.
I know they've done a lot of hiking and camping and all that together. So I'd love to hear both of them together telling stories. I'm sure both of them have some stories to tell about each other.
You might see them. Now I don't know about this gorge hang, but you might see them at the gorge.
Yeah.
They are both gorge rats.
Okay.
And so,
the gorge is definitely on my short list of places that I kind of want to tackle in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to the gorge, I don't know, the gorge rats might get mad at me for saying this because I think it's kind of like a secret society or something. I don't know. But anyway, lately we've been camping at the event camp. And there used to be an older event camp, but this is the new event camp. And the way you find it is you go into Google Maps and you type in Wiseman's View. And then I think you put Linville Gorge, North Carolina. And you got to put a town because it could be a Wiseman's View out in Utah or Idaho or somewhere. And so you type in Wiseman's View, and I think Linville Gorge or whatever forest it is. So then what you do is your Google gets you to Wiseman's View, and then you go south on that road, and that road has 3 names, but it's all the same road. I think it's Kistler Highway, Old NC 105, and 1238. Why it's got 3 names? It's kind of like a trail. You know, you have a trail name and a given name, and then a cuss word name, maybe. I don't know.
Got a couple of those, I think.
So anyway, you starting from Wiseman's View, you just go down south. You go south on that gravel road a couple hundred yards, and it's the second campsite on the right, or on the opposite side of the street of Wiseman's View. So you'll have a good time if you go up there, and you may not see hickory because hickory has a job. There was a while there that hickory, he was a volunteer fireman, and he was a EMT, ambulance driver, and he's taken all kind of courses and stuff, Anyway, he has to work that job, and a lot of that they work 24 on, and then 12 off, and then 48 on, whatever. It's kind of crazy. And then if whoever's supposed to replace you doesn't come in because they're sick or something, then you might have to work their shift. So anyway, Hickory was a volunteer fireman. Well, the fire chief wrecked his four-wheeler SUV, his little not SUV, his little four-wheeler, forest four-wheeler. You've seen that. What do you call those?
Like Gator.
Yeah, a little utility sport.
So the fire chief was a young fellow, like in his late 20s, and so he was racing it, and it flipped on him and it hurt him pretty bad. They thought he was going to die. So Hickory was minding his own business as a volunteer fireman, and they came to Hickory and they said, "You are now the fire chief." So not only was he driving the ambulance, being medic, but he was also the fire chief, and the fire alarm goes off in his house, and in the middle of the night, he's got to appear at these fires. Hickory wasn't getting any sleep at all, so there's no guarantee that he'll be at the gorge.
Right.
But he tries to make it. And Hickory throws a hang called Grayson Highlands hang. He does the Grayson Highlands
festival. They have a festival down in Grayson Highlands.
Right, and he does that, and then in the middle of the winter he does a cold weather hang, cold winter hang. He won't call it the frozen butt hang, but that's what it is. One year it was down to 4 degrees and snow on the ground, 6-8 inches deep.
Grayson Highlands is definitely one of my favorite parks to go to.
Grayson Highlands is beautiful.
It's one of my favorite hangs. It's a wonderful hang. All right, well, would you like any mixed nuts?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
My coffee got cold. You guys talk too much.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap things up, and so that'll be it for this week's episode of the Hammock Hangers podcast.
All right.
We hope you've enjoyed hanging out with us and Phantom today. And,
all right.
Thanks, Phantom, for coming on. It was wonderful chatting with you.
Thank
you.
Hopefully
we can do it again here soon.
Thank you. Pheonix, thank you. Skunkape, thank you. All right.
Now, before we go, don't forget to hit that like button if you've enjoyed our episode today, and subscribe to our podcast for more episodes that will keep you hanging on the edge of your sleep. And whatever podcast app or platform that you use to listen to the Hammock Hangers podcast, we'd really appreciate if you leave us a positive review. It really helps get the word out on the Hammock Hangers podcast. And stay connected with us on social media to keep the hammock conversations going, share your own hammock adventures, and stay updated on all things hammock community related. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for the Hammock Hangers podcast. Thanks for tuning in, Hangers. Until next time, may your hammocks be cozy, your views breathtaking, and your relaxation uninterrupted. Happy hanging, everybody.